Welcome. First thing you're going to notice, I'm traveling. So my microphone's not as good. The video's a little blurry, but Microsoft just released a 2024 November update. That's awesome. There's a ton of content in it. After this video, you will learn everything you need to know about this update. I'm going to talk through these 8 bullets. Again, the format's slightly different than my normal videos, but the content's going to be just as good. You can download this file, follow along, do the labs as you see fit. In the description of this video, there'll be a link where you can download the file. Secondly, the way this is going to go is I'll do a quick pass through of all the content we're going to discuss, and I'll go through everything one by one. Reading through the November blog, I've pulled out these 8 updates as the biggest updates, and for 4 of them, maybe 5 actually, I'm going to do a lab. So you will, through this video, know everything that came out for November 2024. So let's dive into it. For the summary, instead of just talking through this, I'll click through the tabs real quick. We're going to talk about Copilot apps, an update there. Copilot subscriptions, a whole new way that it's writing subscriptions, content in the message of an email. And we're going to do that through a quick demo here. A very cool path. We're now in the maps. We can actually track the paths. We'll have a lab where I have some data in this file. I'll bring this over here as well. And you'll be able to follow along, building something that will track this so you can see how that's done. For visual calculations, we can export data now. I'll show you a demo of that. The small multiples. This is cool for cards. Super cool for cards. We're going to build something like this. There's another video where I go into deep detail about how to build and format these KPI cards. But in this, we'll talk about the small multiples. There will be a lab. I'll talk through again how to do this. You can follow along. Another big release is a text slicer. This text slicer is a free form field. You're entering values. It will format everything. I'm going to talk through an example for how this works, and we'll use it together. There's a new way to make DAX measures quickly through new measures, and then a TMDL extension for Visual Studio Code, which I'll talk through as well. So those are the major updates. And again, I'm going to show you these in more detail. So skip to the chapter that sounds most interesting to you or follow along to get everything. So let's go first to Copilot apps. This is going to be a quick update. Copilot apps, if you across your organization leverage Power BI in a way where people are viewing information on their cell phone, well, if you had a Power BI Copilot narrative summary or Copilot feature through Power BI, it was not accessible through the cell phone. This now, Copilot in Power BI mobile apps now is. And you'll see there's a button up here that will allow you to access it. You can then generate Copilot. You can ask it to create content summaries of the visuals, etc. This is a new feature. It's already existing in desktop and everything, but it's just on the cell phone now. That's the first one. The second one is this. Both the first and the second deal with Copilot. So Copilot summaries now in subscriptions. Here's the context of the problem what this solves. So say you have subscriptions sending out of a report you've built. Well, every time the report goes out, the data changes, but the email body is blank. There's no static text, or the text is static. It's not dynamic. It's not changing. So they figure out a way to take the Copilot summary and essentially put it in the message of an email. And what you can see is, again, you'll simply subscribe to the report. I have another video that shows all about subscriptions. You can click into that, get into the details as you see fit. But essentially, it will generate a summary that you want to have the users receive in an email every single time it refreshes and sends out. In the service, that feature is not rolled out to everybody yet, so I can't demo it for you, but here's essentially what it does. So say I had this report. Again, when I send out the email body and you set up the subscription of the email, you can pick a message. You'll be able to hit the Copilot button, and essentially it's going to generate something like this called a narrative. And what that's going to be, it's going to come up here and connect, and you simply connect. And again, this is, make-believe data from sales for stores and such from Microsoft. But what it did just create this list. And so I can quickly now say, Quibbus had the highest net sales. This one followed with 107, a whole summary of it. Then I can go and look and interact with the report as I see fit. So essentially what's happening is now in the Power BI service, you'll be able to enable a Copilot summary of the report that will go in the message of an email. And this is just showing the technology that's there. The delivery mechanism will be different. Again, it will go in an email to the end users. Okay, next one, path layer. This is pretty cool. So I'm going to give you a lab on this one. You will learn how to do it. I will talk through and get this set up. You will understand it. I brought in a specific data called bus path data for it. But essentially, if you can think about anything that tracks longitude and latitude over time, 4 elements, cars moving, buses moving, planes moving, this will now enable you to do paths and color the lines and change things up. As an example, let's get into the lab. Let's dive into it. I'm going to show you how to use this visual. Firstly, we'll build something like this, where what this is doing, at first looks confusing, but maybe just pick one car, and I have one date, and let's say we just go through time. Well, I know the car starts here, then it over time picked up 13 minutes later over here, took her right down that road this way, heading this way, going over here. So you can see how it's trending over time. But then even more importantly as well, we can clear all these things out. And if you pick another car or another item, again, this is just kind of data that's testing it to show you how that kind of works. You can see how these things grow and move. But let's just talk about how to configure the visual. And again, this data, we're following a car here. We can kind of see how this is shaking down with the details here, and then it just keeps growing. So let's talk about setting this visual up. We're going to take this, make it half. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to go to Insert, and you're going to pick a new visual. It must be the Azure map, and that's going to be blank. So that's intended. Let's click it. And here are the new elements of it. So when we come to the map, let me do this. Oh, I can't have 2 on the same page, I guess. That's interesting. Let me do this. Insert, map. There we go. So, let's just see what happens with this. So what you can do is, on this map, I'm going to put from this bus path data, I'm going to let's extend this. Can't quite get to it. Let me get this here. Different setup on the road. Here, my camera went away for a second. But down here, you can take vehicle latitude, vehicle longitude. All right, so lots of things coming up there. Now let's bring my camera back on so we can just kind of stay synced up here. That will come back on. Thank you for that. So here's the path. Again, if we bring in multiple cars, this is the unformatted one, this is the formatted one. I have lots of time picked here. Let's clear all these filters out. So again, if you naturally just plot things, you don't have the lines that show you how it goes about over time. So here's how that's going to work. If we pick one car, and again, we'll come back to this map. The key new field is called path. So within this, you'll see a path ID. And for what we're trying to do, I got to turn my camera off again. If we come over here to the vehicle reference, that's going to be the path. Let me come back over here. We'll do it this way. That works. And the first thing you're going to notice is right when you do that initially, it's not going to work because you must put then after the vehicle path, you have to put the recorded at time for the point order. And again, download this file because this data set, it will be very helpful for you to go through and practice doing this too. So what you can do here is data point. I'm going to come over here, pick the recorded at time. Now it's going to make it sequential. So just like that, if we come through and I start picking the same thing, again, the top 2, you can see it's moving from point to point. They suggest that if you want to turn off the bubbles, you can. So now we have 2 points going sequentially here, left and right. But then once you want to format it additionally, there's going to be a path layer. And on the path layer, for every element, in this case, it's this car, you can pick the color. I'll make a little bit brighter color, this one. Just for the sake of it, to view it everything, we'll bring all the cars in. And so we'd want to, if you feel like it, change the other cars too. So over here in the path layer, you can pick another card and change this box up. I'll do this one, change this one too. And that's how you can configure the paths. So that information is going to be extremely helpful. The new path layer in the Azure map. Again, I have another video that details maps in a lot of detail if you want to check that out. That will help you for sure. Another quick update is visual calculations. I've done a lot of videos on visual calculations, so I'll make this one relatively quick. But what it is if you previously wanted to export data, so say we'll do this as a lab. Over here, we'll make a chart, and this one looks like it's going to be store region, and then calculations, net sales. Or we'll do store regions. That one's not store regions. But then we want to add, say, a new visual calculation. We want it to be % of grand total. Well, to do that, again, there's a whole video I have about how to set this up, and I'll show you for sure if you want to check that out. But in this case, we're going to do net sales. Net sales. Put this to rows, hit enter. Okay, it created the % of grand total. And the whole point of this update is simply this. So as we've added that % of grand total, maybe I convert it to a table so you can see it a little bit easier just with the data. Well, if you wanted to export that for whatever reason to Excel through this process, export data, you previously could, but it wouldn't export the results of the visual calculation. This right here or this column. But now, as you can see, this is an example just from Excel to keep it all together. If I created a % of grand total column, formatted it, exported to Excel, and now it shows up. That's the whole point of that update. Pretty straightforward. This one is going to be much cooler. This one is certainly cool. So, a couple of things. Small multiples for the new card visual. This will help you with KPIs for sure. If you want to get into the detailed formatting of KPIs, check out this video here that I have, Power BI new card visual with reference labels. But essentially, there's going to be multiple updates with overflow style headers, small multiple labels. Again, let's just get into the lab. You will see how the small multiple deal works. So what we have at the top is a KPI card. And this KPI card has net sales. I'll show this too. Net sales return sold number. That's very standard. So now if we wanted to break that KPI card out, well, previously we'd have to make a whole bunch of KPI cards. You could not do small multiples, but now you can. So let's do it right over here next to it. I'm going to show you how and how to format it. So say we have this. Now the first thing you want to do, again, there's a lot of layout setups and how you can configure this individual card. Watch the previous video for how to do that, because you're going to notice something. Small multiples layout, small multiples header. This is the new stuff. I'm going to show you. These are grayed out. They're grayed out because there's not a small multiple applied and they're brand new. So let's apply one. Let's come over here. Let's pick stores and we'll do store region. So if I expand this, small multiples, let's add it. Stores. We're going to go to attributes and store region. Just like that. Small multiples. Doesn't look the same as the thing on the left, does it? So let's talk through why that is, and we're going to fix it. We're going to make it work. So they both are they're equal in the formatting, and that's going to be very helpful. I'm going to show you how to go real quick from this to this, and you'll see the different elements of this new visual. So firstly, you can see it's defaulted to paginate. So let's set up this small multiples layout, and actually the overflow, we're going to change it to continuous. Okay, but we don't even want continuous. We want to see everything. Good. So we want to keep in a single column because now we're in the small multiples layout, but let's increase this to 6. Good. Now we have everybody. Let's make sure this visual aligns with that one. We'll see how that kind of changes up here in a second, because the next steps are going to be this. Now let's adjust the small multiples layout to say grid lines off. We don't want those. But for the border, let's keep those on. Let's put the color to white. So you can now start to change the white borders, essentially making this a little bit thicker. But we can't quite see what that is yet. So here's the additional layer of detail that's given to us. For the small multiples header, you can now apply everything individually to every individual small multiple. So in this case, we'll set the background for Atlantic to Atlantic. We'll go through these and we'll mirror that on the left. And then we'll bring in those spaces too. So as I bring these in, again, it's just a quick exercise. Great Plains, going through the list, Rocky Mountains, and finally Southwest. So as I'm clicking here, you can see that built that out. I'll change this just so it's perfectly aligned. But now let's talk about the formatting. So again, when we're looking at this layout, we want the small multiples layout, the border, good, grid lines. Let's get these things going too, make these white. Now you can see we kind of have that spaced situation going here, how that looks good. And you can really start to tweak out the visual as you see fit. Again, it's pretty awesome how you can quickly do this stuff, playing with the small multiples, but these are the key new areas: the small multiples layout, the small multiples header. And again, you're controlling the header on this one, as well as then if you want to put an image for every header, you could do that too. But then the small multiples layout is going to be the overall layout of the small multiples. Cool. Text slicer. What is this thing all about? Here's what it does. So we're already aware of like slicers in general. Okay, we're aware of how those work, and essentially this is going to act like a search box. And I have a great example where a few weeks ago I created a video about dictionaries and how you can automatically create a dictionary for your semantic model. Check it out. But essentially I've done that. And what that looks like for our example is it's going to bring back all the expressions of every single thing that's in this model. So now what we want to do is text expression search, and we're going to do a lab to create this. But what this will do is, say over here on the left is a list of every single field in this entire model. Well, if I want to know which ones have an expression that includes the word sum, I can hit enter, hit this, boom. Then I can click and see goal net sales has the sum because it's looking up this word right here. It's filtering the expression. I'll show you how to configure this now. It's kind of a new formatting too, where as opposed to being nested in a box, they kind of bring it out front and make it look cool with an X and an arrow and everything. So maybe I'll search for calculate. Which ones are using the calculate expression? All right, quite a few of them. I can go through and click what those are. You can see they all have the word calculate in them. It searches anywhere. So maybe max. Let's search the word max. This has the max, so that's cool how it works. So let's do it. Let's get in a lab. So the first thing you need to do is go to options and settings, options, preview features, text slicer, visual, enable that. After you've enabled it, go to a new visual and insert the text slicer. And again, we're just going to keep doing these things. You're going to learn through this process. I'm on the road, so it's not my normal setup, but we're learning a bunch. So let's get in this sucker. So now we'll go to the dictionary. We're going to hit up expression, because the field that you put in the slicer is essentially going to be the field that gets filtered on. So I want to search the expression for any kind of keywords. And again, if I clear this out, there's two kind of things going on here. If I put this in by default, that's what it looks like. So what they've given is the ability for us to format the titles, the icons, and the text box. So let's look at that real quick. If we look at the apply button, we can see there's an icon. Let's make the icon white, and we'll make the background, turn it on, make the background green. Okay, cool green arrow. Again, you can get in there and detail it out as you see fit. Then we're going to go to the apply button, or maybe the input box, input text. There's quite different options here. So we'll say the applied text background. Let's make that like some kind of, make it orange in this case, but you can change it up as you see fit. The applied text background, the applied text padding, and that's applying to this section. The applied button, this one, and then maybe the final one is the dismiss button, where we say we don't want this, let's make it red, and let's just make it super big to say, hey, you better know where to click for this thing. Big old X right here. There's an article as well you can click into to see more about it, but essentially it's going to be a cool filter to allow you to put text in there. And again, maybe you want to search for, a big long string of stuff. In this case, nothing will come back, but if you're searching free text, searching paragraphs, searching all kinds of things, you want to find sentences, it's a good way to do it, but also a cool way to format it on a report so it looks good. You can kind of get the same things with filters, adding a search bar. It acts kind of the same, but it's just more on the report side, a little bit more friendly, moving some of that technology around. Finally, define new queries measure and DAX query quick view. I'm not going to use it. It's not my kind of thing, but what it is I like to type my queries by just going straight up new measure, typing up the DAX in here like I've done for this one or other videos. But what all this is saying is if you want to now, say I want to come to product and I want to say, I clicked the eyeball. I want to say quick query, define new measure. All right, well, it just did that. So this is going to give you a formula to say run, define a measure called this, new measure, summarize it, and you can put in the logic here, whatever you want to do. Again, it's a new process that's enabled. I don't necessarily like it. I like to just kind of type in this section right here. One thing I do like a lot is the source control. Source control is cool. If you check out this other video, I detail how to set up source control thoroughly. But a new extension has been released. So if you have, if you're utilizing VS Code to analyze your source controlled files, now you'll be able to have semantic highlighting, error diagnostics, autocomplete, which is really cool, source control, and some GitHub Copilot. Again, if you're typing code in VS Code, that would be really helpful. I'm not using it to type in code. I'm just using it to source control. But again, it's something that is very helpful to have. So all of those are the updates. Thank you for watching this. Subscribe, like. I'm traveling. Power BI is still growing. They're making cool stuff. Check it out. Leave a question, a comment, and keep using Power BI. Talk to y'all later. Bye.